Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for having me on the Kimberly Cloud Show. It is an honor. And my name is Ricky Travolta, Ricky Lee Travolta professionally. And it's an interesting story how I ended up a quote unquote member of the Travolta family because really I was born GMBZ. My father is a convicted sex offender, yet I became a success. And that's the focus of everything I do. I'm a celebrity publicist. I am an expert in corporate branding. Myself and my team, everything being teamwork, we have built number one brands in multiple industries, pretty much every industry. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it extends from entertainment to technology to I was an executive spokesperson and senior vice president of communications for tier one ISP. That's your internet companies that you refer to. And then transportation and food and beverage. We influence a lot. Celebrity publicist, best-selling author, and award-winning screenwriter. I produce television. I produce film. I'm very active in my church. And my proudest titles, I'm known as America's friend because I will stop on the street and give free business advice to those who can't afford $1 million price tags or my $1 million spokesperson abilities. So they call me America's friend because I believe in the American dream for all. And that's a very important title to me. But the most
Tell
important,
me, I'm
if I could
sorry to
just hit
cut
that
you off.
most
Go
important,
ahead.
and that is father. Father to my biological children, father to my bonus children. And I will tell you what, I will be a father to anybody who needs one because we all need the love of parents, the love of friends. And so the father is the one that hits home most. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, my good friend Kimberly.
Thank you. Thank you. So, what books, well, before we get into what books, how did you get out of the stigma of being sexually abused? How did you recover from that?
Okay. Well, the stigma is to be proud of myself. Look, I didn't choose to have my father do the worst thing ever to me. I didn't choose. Recently, we were at an Airbnb, my staff and I, and Airbnb has a $50 million a year budget to cover up sexual assault. And that happened to us at the Airbnb, myself included. It was by Nathan Brown, the chief investment officer of a company called Westward 360, $18 billion a year slumlord. Should I hang my head in shame that he held me down and made me cry like a little girl? No, I didn't choose it. I am a voice for the voiceless. I didn't choose it, and I'm not going to be embarrassed that that little man did that to this big, strong man. I'm going to be a voice and be out in public about it. And that's how you overcome the stigma. You say, I am the victim. It's not my fault. I'm standing up for my rights, and I stand up for the rights of everyone. Unfortunately, that those kinds of things happen, and mostly it happens to little children, like it did my father doing it to me, and it happens to women a lot. And it shouldn't happen to anybody. But you know what? I'll be the focal point. You can make me the honorary symbol of being the victim of sexual assault. You can make me the honorary symbol of those who victimize the disabled. You can make me the honorary symbol of believing in God. You can make me the honorary symbol of anything you want that puts the focus on good things. And that's how you overcome the stigma.
How do you feel your spirituality got you closer to God because you have a PhD, right?
I,
And
I
yeah,
do. I have a PhD in religion. I did
religion.
my graduate work in education being very dear to my heart. And my undergraduate, it was in entertainment management because I was a national touring actor. I've won awards for appearances in film and on stage and very diverse. And what did you ask? How it comes down to religion. And I have a very interesting religious journey. My mother converted to Judaism shortly before I was born. So technically, I'm Jewish. And I've never really practiced Judaism. However, I am on the founding paperwork for a synagogue because I was dating a young lady and was very involved with her family when it was founded. I consider myself Christian. I've explored Catholicism. My ex-wife is she's Orthodox, so I did at one point have to convert to Orthodox to get married in her church, and I wanted that forever relationship. I did. I still do. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and so divorce is not something I chose. She broke my foot at Disney World, and yet still I didn't leave her because I made the vows. I was willing to stick it out. She had a bad day at work one day and decided we're going to destroy the family over it. That was her choice. I still love her. She gave me my son, Valentino, one of the true joys of my life. She helped me establish my executive career. There's great things to everybody. It's not always black and white. What is black and white is God. And there's only one perfect. One of the principles that I teach to business clients, to celebrity clients, is the truth. You always have to be truthful, because if you screw over your customer by lying to them, you're going to lose them. You're not going to be profitable. As a celebrity, if you screw over your fans, they're not going to be faithful to you. You're going to lose them. And so a lot of companies, a lot of celebrities, a lot of just people in general, they make a mistake and they stand by it and they say, I'm right. And that's how you lose everything, because there's only one perfect. There is. He's up there. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes every day, and I'm the first one to admit it, because my journey in religion and as a person is to know I'm not perfect, but to always strive for it, and know I'm never going to get there, but to never give up. And so through all those ordeals, I was isolated. I'm a social person. Because I was sexually molested, I have to be with people. I don't feel love unless I'm getting hugs, holding hands, seeing smiles. There's a saying that I say in most interviews: I let the accountants handle the money, I get paid in smiles. And so to be cut off from people, that was the worst torture, But there was one that I wasn't cut off from, and that is God. And so to answer your question in a very long-winded, rambling way, which is my style, so we just go with who we are. What does it come down to with religion? Is that it's not what you believe for others, it's what you believe for yourself. So I love Catholics, I love Jewish people, I love Christian people, I love Native Americans and their religion. I studied that. I love Asian religions. I love that. And even atheists. It's still a belief, and I respect you for your belief, because it's what your relationship is with your God, your higher power, whatever that is, what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you pursue goodness and
Is
love.
is the Bible different in each country, or does it kind of all center back to God with Judaism and all Catholic and all of those religions? Do they all center back to an ultimate God?
You mentioned the keyword Bible. And the interesting thing about the Bible is it's changed over time. I mean, just look at our most respected and embraced version. The King James version is the most embraced version in the US. Well, King James. I don't recall King James writing the Bible. King James had an adaptation made. And so that's just an example that the Bible has changed over time. And it was not written in English. So it gets translated. So the Virgin Mary, if you look into it, virgin is actually not the word used in the original text. It is translated. So there's debate on if she was even considered a virgin or not. A human made that translation. So is the Bible different? Yes. The original text, the Torah, and all these books, they're all very different because they're from different languages that then get translated. What's important is not the words on the page, but what's in your soul. Because if you
I
go to a
like
church and it change your pastor your priest, your reverend, your rabbi, if it changes because they move on to another job, they pass away, somebody's going to keep leading that congregation, and their personality influences the interpretation. And so I've left churches that I loved because it was a new pastor and I didn't really gel with what they were saying as their interpretation. And I felt they were overstepping the lines. And I'm going to tell you something, Kimberly. I struggled with alcohol addiction for a lot of years because I was covering up emotional pain from my father raping me. And so I drank. And then I had a reason to quit. I got in a car accident with my kid in the car. It was the worst thing you could ever imagine. Thank God nobody was hurt. And I checked into a rehab that day and I never drank again. And it didn't make the emotional pain go away, but I had some reason not to drink. And eventually we found out about Daddy Dearest. And then the emotional pain was gone because I knew it was causing it. But the Lord's Prayer, principle of many, many religions, you know where it really, really hit home with me, became in tune with me? Going to Alcoholics Anonymous, because we would say it every day, every session. And I went every day for years because that's what I needed to get by. I don't go all that often anymore because I'm comfortable with my sobriety. Just like Steven Adler, I resurrected his career from Guns N' Roses. I resurrected his career. He had this reputation from a million years ago that was long past. He's as sober as I am. And in AA, we did the Lord's Prayer at the top of every meeting, at the end of every meeting, and it hit home. That's where it went from just words to having meaning, because it was saving my life, and not just my life, but saving my soul. And that's what I try and do. I'm not Jesus. There is one Jesus. Love him. But I'm going to do everything I can to try and spread that message, not in a religious context. It's not up to me that you follow my religion. I don't care. You can be an atheist and I'm still going to love you. Just like I love Republicans. I love Democrats. I love liberals. I've gotten every type elected. It's about doing the best thing for the country, doing the best thing for society. And that's the original message of the Bible. And that is to love thy neighbor, to do good for one another. And that's what I'm all about when I say things like the American dream for all. Food in our tummies, roofs over our heads, medical care and medicine for all, people not living in the ghetto on food stamps, just scraping by while there's billionaires with garages full of sports cars. Hey, I like sports cars. I like money. I like to contribute to the economy. That's why I'm honest about my taxes. And I will make you billions. You hire me and my team, I will make you billions. But there's always a caveat. For me to endorse a product, for me to endorse a person, for me to endorse a company, you have to do something good. And that means not just people scraping by, but everybody being happy. I was going to endorse a brand called Geode Health. They're a provider of therapy services. And my caveat for lending my name was you have to provide a certain number of pro bono hours to people who are in need, people who can't afford services, battered women, homeless. Come on, you're getting my endorsement. Do something good with it. Now they happen to commit HIPAA violations, huge legal violations, and we have the chief legal officer recorded with that, and that relates to their partner KKR, which is $100 billion public company, and we have the chief, the partner, who is in charge of investor relations, ignoring desperate calls for horrific crimes against humanity that were occurring because of these HIPAA violations. So I had to step back from that possible endorsement. And you don't always close the door. You say, oh, you made a boo-boo. You made $1 billion boo-boo, because that's what happens to a brand like that if they don't fix it. Hey, you come to the table, you fix it. And part of fixing it is doing good things for Americans, doing good things for society, doing God's work, making everybody's life better. That's acknowledging the boo-boo and fixing it. Because, Kimberly, we're not perfect, are we? We
No, we're
make boo-boos
not.
and then we fix them. And when we fix them, we figure out a way to make things better.
Can I ask you another question? I love your intelligence,
Oh,
what you're
thank you.
saying. Do you believe, have you came across, you don't have to name them, but have you
Okay,
came across religious leaders and politicians? And then counter to that, tell me about how you were the mastermind behind the idea of the iPad.
groovy. So I've worked with religious leaders. A lot of them, I don't like to use their names. I don't like to use the names of the politicians that I've gotten elected. I don't like to use the names of the religious leaders that I advise. And there's a reason for that, because it influences companies, it influences celebrities, and they're not tied to those politicians. They're not tied to those religious causes. And so it's unfair to those clients to be tied to them. I will say that I've met Donald Trump when I was a young man. And I will say I've met Bill Clinton. I've met members of every major party, and they all have said things that are very charming. They have all said things that resonate with people. Otherwise, they would not have gotten elected. And so I respect the good, and I question the things that. And when I'm brought in an advisory capacity, it's not to be a yes man. It's to address those things. And the iPad, what happened with that? I didn't introduce the iPad itself. There was a 3-person team. Andres Haas was the inventor of the Axiotron Modbook, the first Apple-based tablet, the precursor to the iPad. I was the sole marketing partner, and then Larry O'Connor, representing Otherworld Computing, a company that I turned into a $600 million a year tech leader. He was the third partner in charge of the distribution. And so I unveiled that product, the Axiotron Modbook, in 2007 at Macworld, Apple's own convention, where Steve Jobs would talk about his newest and greatest things every year. And there's only one time in history of Macworld, in the history, that Apple didn't win Best of Show. I did it. And that was the Axiotron Modbook. And that year, Steve Jobs was talking about the iPhone. Wow. And I stole the thunder. Now, it was Andres Haas' invention. I was the marketing genius, as Steve Jobs called me on the phone to tell me. Very high praise. And then Larry O'Connor unfortunately dropped the ball on the distribution. He lied. He said that there was a factory ready to distribute, ready to manufacture. And it turned out there was no factory and have the parts ready to be fabricated. So instead of shipping record orders from day one, the biggest attendance at any booth in Macworld in history up to that point, and we had orders beyond belief, and they didn't ship for like a year and a half instead of shipping right away. And so Steve Jobs called Andres Haas a genius for inventing the Axiotron Modbook. I agree with that 1,000%. He called me a marketing genius for doing the marketing of the one time in history to take those tech headlines. I'm not going to call myself a genius, but Steve Jobs did. Jerry Goldman from Paramount Studios did. Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses did. A lot of people have called me that. David Lenowitz from Empire Today, I made them #1 in their industry. A lot of people have used that term. Very
Where
complimented. I'm complimented by Steve Jobs. Larry O'Connor, Steve Jobs didn't use that term for him. iPad turned out to be a $19 billion brand. There wouldn't be an iPad if the Modbook had shipped as planned. Instead, Steve had the time to develop the iPad thoroughly, and the market was unfilled. Had the Modbook been released, the market would have been saturated, and there wouldn't have been a need for the iPad. Instead, Steve Jobs and Apple introduced the iPad 3 years later, and it is now a $19 billion sub-brand to Apple. And that is what we call a billion-dollar boo-boo. And that's actually the name of the show that we're producing. We have 2 shows. We have a whole network coming out, the America's Friend Network, and a
Tell me
bunch of
more
shows.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 2 of the shows, one is Billion Dollar Boo Boo, and related to that is Brand Titanic. When companies commit not just billion-dollar boo-boos of losing billions, like Larry did, dropping the ball on what would have been the precursor to the iPad, the Axiotron Modbook. He just made the goof. But then there's companies that cover things up. Other World Computing is actually an example of that. They redid their press room and changed quotes about me, the executive spokesperson, changed my title to things like assistant, and republished articles from other entities, changing quotes to people who weren't even with the company. And then we have a case with Boost Mobile. We're doing a big season long on Boost Mobile, which is owned by Dish Network, which is owned by EchoStar, which just sold off, I think it was 27 billion in spectrum frequencies to AT&T. And so they
What's the spectrum frequency?
spectrum frequencies, the FCC licenses the frequencies that are used for cell phones and things. And so Boost Mobile wanted to become one of the big players in the cell phone market. So they had all these licenses for spectrum frequencies, like your radio signals. To have a radio station, you have to license the frequency. So spectrum frequencies, that relates to cell phones. And so they had this library of them. And they decided, I guess, to sell them off. And they sold them to AT&T. And so it was 27 billion. Well, that rape that happened at the Airbnb, that was enabled not only from the HIPAA violations and other criminal actions of Geode Health, influenced, unfortunately, by my own relatives who lied about me. Kimberly, you've said that you're some very complimentary words about my intelligence. They refer to me as stupid, idiot, effing idiot. Interesting, different perceptions. Now they have actually not had conversations with me. they're reflecting that based on the words of Nathan Brown, the chief investment officer, who was the one who raped me, because he got on the phone and he told them that, and they've never felt the need to get on the phone with me. So they've repeated his lies. But Boost Mobile, I had a broken phone. I had a broken phone from Boost Mobile, and so I couldn't get a hold of anybody to save me from the raid. Then I got out finally, and I do media interviews. And we had interviews scheduled with international news. I'm going to cite some names of the types of broadcast networks that we were supposed to do interviews with: Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Well, take Fox News, for example. A 1-minute spot on Fox News as an advertisement costs $2 million. And now if you do an interview, 5-minute interview on average, multiply that 2 million by 5. Okay, so now you're $10 million if you miss one interview in terms of the influence you're going to have on the public. And I missed a bunch of interviews because Boost Mobile didn't upgrade the data package that I paid for, and instead engaged in pretty much horrific violations of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, under the 14th Amendment. And so not only did I miss those interviews and $10 million a pop in terms of influence, then I lost clients, myself and my team did. And when we asked the official representative of Boost Mobile, speaking on behalf of the CEO of Dish Network and Sling TV, speaking on behalf of all executives at EchoStar, with her acknowledging that she was doing this. Her name was Nicole Stefani. And she said, no, I'm not going to allow you to talk to somebody of an appropriate level who can handle something of this magnitude, a vice president of marketing, a CEO. Instead, she said that she was not going to respect and honor my request for accommodation of my disability. And this is all recorded. It's recorded with me on video and her talking on the phone, violating laws, and me trying desperately to save her from destroying the Boost Mobile brand, the Dish Network brand, and EchoStar. And EchoStar just came into $27 billion from that sale of spectrum frequencies to AT&T. And that is all going to be a focus of an entire season on Brand Titanic and Billion Dollar Boo Boo, about how now, with a violation like that, first of all, you have civil lawsuits of the trauma induced to me. I was raped because they didn't do their job. And then we went into a Boost Mobile store, and Jose, the manager, and Jasmine at the call center all agreed how horrific Boost Mobile is, and Dish Network is, and EchoStar is. And I did an impromptu commercial right there on camera. I said, Here's what I could do. If I endorse your brand, if you say, oh, we made the boo-boo and I endorse the brand, I'm America's friend. People are going to love you, Boost Mobile. People are going to want to use the brand instead of saying, I hate Boost Mobile. I hate Dish Network. I hate EchoStar. They've allowed rape. They allowed the rape and destruction of a Christian, a loving father, a businessman, a chief creative officer of a major company of influence tied to politicians, religious leaders, Hollywood celebrities, music celebrities, Broadway stars, sports figures. Let's turn this around. And Jose said, that makes a lot of sense. But you know what? Rikki Lee Travolta, America's friend, born GMBZ, whatever you want to call me, America's friend. Jose, you know what? I can't even give you a $5 phone. The rules and regulations of Dish Network and Boost Mobile and EchoStar are I can't give you a $5 phone to fix the fact that we sold you a broken phone in the first place. It allowed you to be raped. And then our official representative saying that she was speaking on behalf of every executive, every investor of this billion-dollar company, Nicole Stefani, on record saying that. And Jose at the store in Crystal Lake, Illinois, on record, recorded with Miss Deal of Hollywood Celebrity Endorsement Partners and GMB Celebrity Brands and Life and Times Media and Entertainability Group, own that sub brand owned in partnership with the very brilliant, very beautiful Deborah Swinford, one of the top business minds I've ever met. Well, guess what? They didn't fix it. They said, we're not going to fix it. And it was a broken phone that didn't even work, and they haven't fixed it to this day. And so not only do we have those programs coming out, Billion Dollar Boo Boo and Brand Titanic, I can go on every news station ever and talk about it and show the footage. And that's called brand suicide, because who's going to want to do business with a company like that? Now, I have some cool nicknames, Kimberly, and one of them is Brand Savior. And there's only one savior. We know that. But Brand Savior. When companies commit billion-dollar boo-boos and they don't want it to become public, they bring in a specialist, somebody like me and my team at Entertainability Group, Hollywood Celebrity Endorsement Partners, and we keep it out of the news. Well, you allow
we're running
keep it out of the news to be the victim, and suddenly it's the big focus of the news.
We're running out of time, so I wanted to know one last thing, a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for well said, by the way. So spirituality and AI. Tell me about spirituality and AI to you and how this because a lot of religious leaders are using Web 1 to communicate with their followers, such as the internet and everything. Tell me how you feel about spirituality and AI merging together.
Well, technology is a wonderful thing in the right way. If you leave it unchecked, then it's not going to do its job, because it is a job. It's a tool. Because spirituality is about the human spirit, and a computer doesn't have a spirit. A computer doesn't have a soul. And so you use it as a tool. But there's a big problem in business, not only with religion, but in business, where people steer to AI for their phone systems. And guess what? If you have a question and you can't ask a person, then it's a problem. And so an AI program can't write a sermon. It can give you the background to it, but it can't deliver it. It can't deliver it with the purpose that God intends. And that's the human, the soul. Because think about it. Jesus, when he was here on earth, it wasn't just God's spirit that came down. Jesus was in a human form with human faculties. I mean, Jesus probably burped. Oh my Lord, he did. It was a human body. Okay. And so that's part of the human condition, to share the spirit, the soul. And so I'm all about AI. I actually have a partner in the UK, my man Wale, and we develop AI software. Some of it's related to the entertainment industry. Some of it is related to the venture capital industry. And yes, some of it is related. We will probably develop programs, AI programs, for religious purposes, but always coming back to the fact you have to have human involvement. Because I'll tell you what, Kimberly, if you take humans out of it, if you create all the AI software in the world where jobs are eliminated, then the world collapses, because then there's no economy and there's nobody earning money, no jobs, no earning money, no economy, world collapses. You have to have people, computers, AI, technology, phones. It's all here to serve a purpose, tools. And so I was the research editor for the official biography of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, one of the most influential self-help writers of all time. And my religious clients, my political clients, my business clients all swear by it. I am the one person on earth who knows the secret alluded to in Think and Grow Rich. I'm a best-selling author myself. Heath Ledger wanted to star in the film adaptation of My Fractured Life, my first novel. We have the film and TV rights back. But AI, it has its tool. It can be used to write books, but then a human has to edit them. A human has to check the facts, because you make that boo-boo by not checking the facts, and you got the billion-dollar boo-boo. And we're talking about souls. When we're talking about what God put us here for, it's not measured in billions, because money, that's a man's creation. The soul has no price. The soul is eternal. The soul is more valuable than anything else.
Well said, Mr. Travolta. How can the people reach you?
I would love to hear from anybody. I endorse brands. I endorse million-dollar brands. I endorse brands that are on their way up. And that applies to celebrities too. When I retool somebody's career, make them famous again, or bring them up. And so I want you to reach out to me, success@certifiedplatinum.us, success@certifiedplatinum.us. That's for our business clients. For our celebrity and entertainment endeavors, I want you to reach out to me and my team at Idol Makers, just like American Idol, Idol Makers at Celebrity Endorsements with an S.us. I'm America's friend, so all of our domains are .us. Marketing, what I'm famous for, what Steve Jobs says I'm a genius at. Idol Makers at celebrityendorsements.us, success@certifiedplatinum.us, and you can always find me on LinkedIn or hit us up at certifiedplatinum.us or celebrityendorsements.us. Thank you for that opportunity to reach out to America and the world, Kimberly, and thank you for what you do. And thank you for everybody who listened and gave a little humor to this goofy guy who just loves people and loves to smile. And if you see me on the streets, shake my hand, ask me advice, tell me your story, let me give you a hug if you feel comfortable, and just know that I love you. The greatest person that, besides my children and the wonderful Marie and the wonderful Deb, and the greatest relative outside of my children was my grandmother. And so while I was being sexually abused by my father, and my mother has never used the words "I love you," it is what it is. My grandmother would call me from across the country, and she'd say three things to me. She would say, "I'm proud of you," and everybody needs to hear those words. And so I try and say those to people. And so, Kimberly, I'm proud of you for your show, and everyone watching, I'm proud of you for the great things you do. And my grandmother would say, "I love you." Yes, she would say, "I love you." And so, Kimberly, we've just met that I love you, and I love everybody out there. That's why I'll be your father. You want me to adopt you? I'll adopt you. I want you to know that I love you. And the other thing she said was her own little slang, and it's "you done good." And hey, slang is okay. Language evolves, just like the Bible evolves. So to everybody out there, from your friend, from your father, from Goofy Ricky Lee Travolta, GMPZ, you done good.
Thank you so much. Stay on the line. Thank you guys for listening to Ricky Travolta. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Never waste my time, you all I want.